No, you're supposed to be recording.
Oh, it's nice out here.
Oh, yeah. Hey, we got a camera lady.
Oh, hi, camera lady. How you doing?
Yes.
Are you getting paid?
It's wonderful. No, she's not getting paid. You should get paid like $10 a day. No.
Oh, I remember here.
Not really. Yeah, like $1 million a second. Yeah. Go. In a millisecond. Most money in the world in a half. We'd be like the rich people. Hi, camera lady. Hi, camera lady. Hi. Hi. Those are feathers. Those are leaves. Look at all those feathers. I made a bridge there.
All right, boys and girls, raise your hand if you're listening. All right. So White Mound County Park, the lake is a man-made lake. They built a dam and this stream filled up the lake. A few years ago, maybe 10 years ago, the lake was getting full of silt. That means, dirt, because whenever it would rain hard, this stream would bring in lots of dirt from the fields up above. And it was filling it in, and it wasn't a very good fishery lake then. So what they did, this is amazing, they drained the lake and then they took hundreds of truckloads of silt out of it. But then to prevent that again from happening, they built some low areas here and across the road so that when the rains came and this creek would flood, it would flood into those low areas and the dirt would settle out in those low areas instead of in the lake. And now it's going to make the lake last longer. But I'm going to give you a good word here. It's a word that means the lakes are dying. And that's true for all the lakes, most of the lakes in Wisconsin. They're filling in with dead leaves and the plants die. And so the lakes are slowly dying. And here's the word. Let's see who's going to remember this. Eutrophication. Think about it like you trip on vacation. Eutrophication. It means the lakes are dying slowly. Ready to walk?
Yep.
All right.
These are waterproof.
Oh my goodness.
I don't think my boots are waterproof. You know, it's not sweat? Sometimes, yeah. I'm cold. I'm shivering right now. We should have stayed at school there.
Don't whine. You'll be fine.
I thought these were native grasses, but they're not. As I look closer, they're little trees. I thought they were big blue stem. All right, sorry about that.
It's not a trampoline. Oh my God.
Poor thing.
They're so cute. Mom, there was a mole. I know, there's a mole.
All right, hold it.
Wait, I see moles.
Oh man.
Wait a minute.
A rat. Disgusting old rats.
Raise your hand if you're listening.
But they're bigger.
Raise your hand if you want to tell me what you think that was.
A mole.
A mole. What do you think?
A mouse?
A mouse.
A gopher.
A gopher.
A rat.
Anybody else?
That's so huge. Those kind of chicken? Yeah,
A T-Rex?
That's good. It was a chicken.
I'm pretty sure that was a vole. Not a mole, but a vole.
Yeah.
There's, little bitty ones that look like mice are shrews, and they have long noses. And then the mice, a lot of them are little whitefoot mice, and they have some white on them, but they're smaller than that. The vole is like the bigger of the little critters around here. So I think those were both voles. But I don't see this path that used to be here. They've changed it.
There used to be a path.
Yeah, there used to be a path this way, so we're going to have to go back across the bridge.
We're not to drop your gloves. I got my gloves. It's not slippery. It's not as step on the This is what I could just slide down. Oh, I didn't know there was shelter back here. Blank spot. Hey!
Previous trip, we have smelled bergamot.
What's bergamot? Oh, yeah.
Guys?
Oh, yeah.
All right, I'm going to give you something, and here's what I want you to do with it. This is a seed pod from a nice prairie plant, a good prairie plant. So with a partner, because I don't think I see enough of these, I want you to take this and squeeze it real hard and rub it, and then smell it.
Oh, my God. Smell it.
Take one.
Squeeze. Holy!
You gotta squeeze it real hard and rub it.
It smells like
Here, Gabby.
How is it? Gabby, here,
Raise your hand if you like the smell.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I hate this smell.
How about if you don't, raise your... All right, I've already noticed a couple trails that are different and overgrown. So what I'm thinking is happening, and maybe when we get in the building we can ask them, is that they're letting prairie plants grow. Because you've heard of endangered species, right? Different kinds of animals and bugs that are diminishing. Habitat, like a prairie habitat, is also diminishing. So I'm thinking that's what they're doing here, is creating more prairie area, because only certain birds and certain animals, maybe like the voles, thrive in prairies.
Kiln trail. I'll just in town. Oh, I want to go through the slippery stuff. My dad could be walking.
Walk on the side. The side is like...
Oh, yeah, it is. Miss Vossen!
What?
I'm not falling. You're going to make me fall.
All right. Now, you might think I stopped here for this. It could be a buck rub, but it's also a dead tree. The bark is coming off. So, I'm not sure if that's a buck rub or not. But the real reason I stopped here was this tree. Now, if you look at most trees, like the one behind you there, the bark is pretty rough. And lots of trees have rough bark. This tree is kind of smooth and has ridges. And if you think about your arms, I can't get mine up there, they're kind of ridged. Its muscles are showing up a little bit. So this tree is called a muscle tree. And the smooth bark kind of ridges, looks like a muscle.
You've been working out. Muscle tree.
This thing. Good. All right, look at the tree. Everybody knows what the holes are from, right?
No. Woody the Woodpecker, of course.
Okay, when you say Woody Woodpecker, what do you mean?
Pecker. A woodpecker.
What do we mean it's from the movie? Woody the Woodpecker. I like this.
All right, I'm going to tell you. Woody the Woodpecker cartoon was an image of the pileated woodpecker, our largest woodpecker. And the reason we know that that was done by the pileated is because he does an oval hole. And a lot of those holes are oval, so that's a clue to the pileated woodpecker.
I don't see no
Affiliated. Careful, Gabby.
I don't see anything. Stand up for feet.
All right, let's put it back.
Wait, I couldn't even see.
Look at the decomposers.
Yeah.
Ashton, you need to help push the wall.
Was there nothing under there?
Daddy, you heard It's tungsten.
But I think it's part of limestone. And that's why we're here. We're looking for the Lime Kiln.
I'm going to try to mind it.
Hey, camera!
All right, we're going to turn over some of these logs just to see what's under them. But no, wait. There's kind of a rule of nature that you leave no trace. So when we turn over a log, we always put it back again because something lives under there even though we don't see it. So first of all, be careful you don't hurt anybody when you're turning over a log, and then make sure you put it back.
Mr. Williams.
To walk slower and just be noticing things. And look at the tree with the lichens on it, those little green spots all there.
See the lichens? Green
And the
flaky stuff?
mosses around it.
What are those called? Remember? I don't know. What are lichens, mushrooms? Decomposers. Yes, decomposers. Remember they're breaking down stuff?
Can you get in the center?
No, we gotta keep walking.
There's a little hole. See? I wish that we could go down here soon. Josie, you don't look
Tarzan could live here.
My nickname is Tarzan.
Where's the line? 1 acre, half an acre. It's about that big and pines around it with bedding.
Yeah.
Gabby, cheese.
Like, farther back, we don't eat where they bed because it'd be
Oh my goodness, Sander.
But I'm not sure. It might be over this week. The big conference, the World Conference on Climate Change. Countries from all over the world are talking about what to do about climate change. And one man, who's the president of his country, was speaking to the group by way of Zoom or Facebook, but he was standing in the water because his country was the water was coming up over his country. One of the reasons I do this, to take kids outdoors, is so you appreciate nature, and when you get to be in a position, which could be any time now, you'll make decisions in favor of our climate and our world. And I say even now perhaps, because there's out Highway V toward the Harchie Center, there used to be a pond and it's all dry right now. And so it's affecting us. And some of you may remember the flood we had in 2018, but we also had one in 2008, and they said it was a 500-year flood. 500-year floods, 10 years together, that doesn't make sense. So we need people who care about the environment, and that's part of what we're doing today, is caring about it. Last week? Dinosaur times, maybe even before then. Right. So they settled to the bottom of the ocean, and at one time this was underwater too. It doesn't seem that way, but millions of years ago. It's amazing. So the limestone, it formed a hard rock, but then when it's submitted to heat over several days, it breaks down into a powder. And that's what we're going to see here. The kiln is like an oven. It's a rock oven. How can they burn limestone in a rock oven that's made of limestone? Because there's different levels. And then they used it like for cement in between bricks. And then they would take the waste and they would just throw it on the hills around here. And so thus the name White Mound, because it would create a white spot on the different mounds around here. So unless it's been changed, there's a big sign down there, and I'd like you to read the sign about how they do that. So it's down there by that fence.
Raindrop fell off the stick.
Henry, why don't you read it really loud?
Lime kilns were built in the middle 1800s. The lower part of the kiln was moderate towards the above the fireplace was a grate on which the stone were placed. These stones were heated red and hot and had to remain at this high temperature for 3 days and nights in order for the limestone to disintegrate and break down into powder. After cooling and having some waste removed, the lime powder was ready to use. This kiln at White Mound was rebuilt in 1977. The lime was probably used for plaster because of the fine quality. Other uses of lime were for whitewashing, field fertilizer, and a cement substitute.
Bravo! Bravo!
Good job, Henry. So if you walk around, you can see the opening of the other. This is the lime kiln, so this is where they would burn the limestone up to make the powder. And they would use the powder as like
Or it could be for salt. Probably for salt.
I'm giving up, Corbin. Chris.
Well, this was once a buck rub and it was down lower. That's not true. This was always in this position. It just grows wider. And this is, for some reason, it got injured, and so it's been healing here. But all this wood on the inside is dead wood. Well, it's gone. And this is the live part just under the bark here. Yeah.
What's that one?
It looks to me like it's paint.
Yeah.
And if you look around,
There's paint right there.
there's paint on other trees around
To
here.
cut them?
Maybe that means they're going to cut them down. If we get to either Jessica or Matt Steve, they will know what's going on here. So we can ask them some of those questions too. What?
people raise their hand.
Raise your other hand if you're standing still. Thank you. We are going to have lunch in the building, and they try to keep the building nice and clean. So we've just been walking through a lot of mud, but there's a lot of tough grass here. So as we're walking through the grass, maybe try and clean off your feet so we don't drag a lot of mud into their building.
We're going to go in the back door, they said. So.
Oh, I don't know where the
Yeah, I don't know either.
Yeah, I do. What's your question?
Has White Mound been a thing?
So White Mound has been a park since like 1970, so that's only over 50 years now. Yes.
Why is White Mound by a lake?
A lake? The lake was created right after the park was created, so about 50 years old. Yes.
Why were the trees spray painted up there?
Depending on where you were, I think over here, right? They were painted a long time ago to do a timber sale, so that would go in and kind of thin out the forest a little bit, so that way it can regenerate and be nice and healthy. What's your question? Just more chairs and tables. Nothing cool.
Hey, you asked that question.
Yes.
I do. Yeah.
What's that?
How can you cut off like some trails?
How can we cut off some trails? Like ended up, you think, or? Yeah.
Well, I think the one I was gonna take them down, I said it's not there anymore.
Oh, okay. So some of the trails got rerouted. If it's a horse trail, we made it easier for the horses to get around. Otherwise, we just rerouted it to a better location. Yes.
Basically a mansion.
A mansion, really? It's actually smaller than it's supposed to be. It is pretty nice, isn't it? We have lots of weddings and birthday parties out here. We did have a funeral out here once, yes. Yeah. What's that? We have about 7. We have lots of trails throughout the park, but we have 7 that are like named and we have mileage for and all that. Yep. Yes.
That was Ashley's grandpa.
What's that?
That was Ashley's grandpa.
Oh, okay.
Is this rut? What's the rut caused by?
Water. Erosion.
Right here. The rains, erosion. What did I say caused the lake to start to die? What's that word? Let's see if who remembers about. Guys, raise your hand if you're looking up here. What's the word? Getting close. Eutrophication. So this erosion here, you know, it might get stopped, but eventually it would get down to the lake there. The other thing I stopped here for is I've got this thermometer, and this reminds me to tell you about insects and temperature. So unless it's at least 40 degrees, usually most insects are not going to be flying. So I'm guessing it's maybe close to 40. I don't know what it is today. But also, some insects like crickets and insects that make noise will make noise at different temperatures also. So temperature is, and you know, it's kind of an interesting thing to know about when you're in nature. Thank you. This is a test. This is a test. We're in school. This is a test. Who remembers the name of that thing on the tree? On the count of 3, say it. 1, 2, 3.
What do you want back there?
Okay, I'm going to call on somebody who raises their hand.
Look at the big lump on the tree. The big lump there. Pass. Let's pass.
That was the name of the tree that looked like a mussel, the bark.
Oh, yeah.
Who else thinks they remember?
Remember the name of it?
I know it. I don't remember one.
Yes.
It's that cherry thing. Oh, I know.
Well, we saw it in a cherry tree. That's good. That part you remember. And there were 2 things. There was the disease, the rot.
Gab, do you remember?
Starts with what?
VR.
Yes. Well, B-U-R. Burrow. A burrow.
Burl.
That popped into my head
Just now. Oh my goodness.
Raise your hand if you're listening.
After he's done.
Most of what we've been talking about has been nature and been real. But now it's time for a little imagination. Look at that. The big dead tree standing up and that other tree right next to it. Can't you just imagine that as a prehistoric snake?
Oh,
A great big
It looks like a boat.
I don't see it.
I see like the boat, and then I see the.
Okay, yeah, you can just use your imagination.
I see a dude with a big hat on.
And then when you go back today, you can make up a story about that. What was going on or what that is.
I see that.
Remember I said the trees grow out, they don't grow up? This is what happens. And I don't know if I did this at Harchie, you know, if you put a string around your finger, what happens? What do your parents say?
It could cut your circulation.
Yeah, cut the circulation off. And the same thing's true with the tree. You know, if you put a wire around it or even a rope, when the tree grows out, it'll cut off that circulation. But here, these two trees were together, and so they're growing together. It's just amazing nature. The trees grow around things. They'll grow around rocks. They'll grow around other trees.